Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Saving the World Together podcast with Luke Macmichael and Martin Rezny. We've taken a little bit of a break, but it's good to be back. Let us know if you missed us. We definitely appreciate all the comments and suggestions. If there's anything you want us to talk about or anybody you'd like us to meet, we'd love to hear it as we start a new season of the podcast. And welcome, Martin. How have you been?
Well, it's been a busy, I guess, half a year or so. We've been working on a bunch of stuff, and personally, I've tried to develop a lot of things that we talked about in the years prior in a more theoretical way. So I guess one of the things we'll try to cover in the upcoming episodes is keeping people up to date on how much progress we've actually made toward making all the pillar ideas practical, even as a business that could generate some revenue potentially. So we haven't just like stopped and stopped doing everything, and instead of doing the podcast, we paused the podcast because we had a lot of stuff going on. So I guess what are we going to talk about first?
Yeah, so today we just kind of wanted to give you guys an update, a little bit about what we've been doing, some of the projects we've been working on. The main one has definitely been our Cogensy .net new app that we're working on. It's a way to coordinate large groups as well as small groups of people in a way that they can kind of offer suggestions to solve a given problem, whatever that problem might be. So you put up a question and everybody comes up with different responses. Text-based right now. So it could be large numbers, millions of people theoretically kind of chiming in on a given problem, or potentially some kind of political issue or a world issue of any kind, or even just a local small company or small friends and family issue. And it's just a way for everyone to put out their ideas, and then AI can merge the ones that are similar if there's large numbers of people who are the same. And people can vote, and they can kind of offer ideas based on the ideas, and you can continue to drill down and almost kind of like a little debating game of some kind. And afterwards, the AI can chime in and add suggestions or let you know how good it thinks your responses are based on different criteria for debating and things like that. So it's a really interesting tool. We've been having a lot of fun developing that with Nova and couple other people. It's been good. So that's kind of been taking up a lot of our time lately. We're going to be going live with it probably in the next couple of months, hopefully, where we're starting to get into testing. So if anybody's curious or interested in getting involved with that, please drop us a note. But yeah, Cogensy.net is the link. We'll put it in the description later if anybody wants to take a look at it, just to see what we're working on. But that's kind of been our main thing. Other than that, we've definitely been continuing to work on our book as well. Martin has been kind of helping me build a set of short stories that's going to help highlight the direction we think the world may or may not go, or partly the direction we'd like it to go, because they're hopeful stories to some extent, even though there's obviously some negative challenges. And there's always, you got to have your antagonist and protagonist to make any story interesting, obviously. Nothing's ever lollipops and rainbows without a little bit of challenges. So anyway, we're hoping that it turns out to be a fun story for people to read. We'll let you know when that's ready as well, but that's also been taking up a fair bit of our time. But again, if you're interested in getting early copies of that, please let us know. Reach out to us. We'd love to get some feedback and get early people that are interested in editing the book and getting involved with those kinds of things. So those are our two major projects right now.
Yeah, I would like to add some context, or I guess detail, to these two endeavors. As for the book, I guess that'll be shorter to explain. There are actually several of the short stories finished already. So like one of the things that we're looking to is maybe if somebody's interested in getting early access and reading some of the stories before the whole thing's done, to help us in the essentially editing process. Like that's something that we're definitely open to. And actually there have been some people who have already helped us in that way. So that's something definitely you could participate in. I would just say, as for like the how it sort of connects with our work on Cogensy, is that there's been this interesting thing that happened with the AI recently. So I guess it's also in terms of like us updating people on like what we've been working on. It's actually, I guess, turns out that like the particular AI technology that's been developed recently might have been the secret sauce in many ways to making a whole bunch of the ideas that we were thinking about just a couple of years prior entirely feasible. Cogensy is actually a project that we started with Nova. It's originally Nova's project. It's actually the specific design for the algorithm in the app is his. So he actually approached us, or I guess you set up some sort of connection with Nova, because it felt like already a couple of years ago that kind of project seems like one of the practical beginnings for what we talked about, particularly regarding things like the alternative education systems or the TruthWorks initiative, where basically there's this problem, or long-standing problem, of trying to help, I guess, improve human communication on the internet, making it easier for people to lead more constructive, large discussions and debates about stuff, make ongoing debates that are drilling down on issues and really trying to find solutions, which is something that hasn't been happening even in the existing debating world so far, where the debates keep restarting most of all. So we started a couple of years back, actually before the whole LLM boom, and we did do some development. We pushed it forward. We did develop some ideas in more detail. But at that time, we sort of weren't entirely sure how to exactly make it work. So we shelved it for about a year. And then, wouldn't you know it, the LLMs exploded. And suddenly it turns out that, like I said before, AI might be the secret sauce to making that not only work, but also making it clearer what it is, even as a business. So if you have this like AI involved in this, like, first of all, AI actually solves a lot of the problems with the scaling. Like if you actually want to have 1 million people that talk and it makes sense and it works, like with LLMs, that's basically entirely doable. I think we're finding out already with what we have developed so far that it really does seem entirely feasible. And there are new applications of it that we haven't even thought of before that are just now sprouting up. Just as soon as you see it starting to work, you just immediately see like new possibilities of what you can do with it. So what Luke summed up is just like the briefest possible version of like summing up what it can before. Ultimately, we have like a maybe bigger problem is like it could do so many things that we have to sort of pick like what to do first. It's not an issue that like it would be difficult finding out like how to make it work or to what purpose.
Yeah, if I had to pick a goal, or the main goal for season 4, I think this is we really have to figure out a way to connect with AI and AI tools in a way that keep humans relevant, I guess you could say. We have to find our niche or our purpose in this changing society, this changing world where LMMs and just AI in general seem to be taking more and more of the work, more and more of the jobs. We've got to find a way to stay relevant. So this is kind of a tool to just help us connect on new levels with other people and help us find actual solutions to the many problems that we face.
To create human superintelligence.
Yes. Yeah, we've got to combat the AI superintelligence by working with them in a way to stay relevant, and also to train the AIs to make sure that AI knows what humans want and doesn't just kind of run off on their own in their own tangents, doing things that humans don't care about.
Yeah, that's the big word, I guess, is alignment. So if you're particularly interested in the issue of AI alignment, we have so many very practical ideas right now about AI alignment. The whole Cogensy thing isn't actually the only project that we're working on. We have a couple other more stealth things, let's say, that all are connected with the issue of AI alignment. And the book that we already have like about half or more than half written is actually a lot about AI alignment, essentially. If I had to like reduce it like thematically, like what the main point of those stories is, I think the main through line of those stories is the role of like, let's say, artificial intelligence and related technologies, and how we believe we can actually sort of, it's sort of trying to paint a vision of like how we could actually get to specifically aligned AIs and what role they would play in the cooperation with humanity toward achieving something better. And of course, if you have these antagonists and stuff, we have to like explain what we think about like the AI going rogue and stuff like that. So that's the kind of stories generally that we are writing about.
Yeah, the other thing I'd like to really focus on this season as well is the first pillar, of course, the pillar of peace, trying to figure out a way to get through these, I guess, chaotic disasters that are happening in the world again, with the Ukraine war still going strong. It's almost 4 years now, I think. Crazy.
Sure, longer than like 3 days that it was planned to be.
Yeah, I think it started around the same time we started this podcast 4 years ago. I remember talking about it several different times, and now it's just been like, oh dang, is this thing ever going to end? And then now, of course, with the Iran, it's just starting, close to, I guess it's been about a month and a half now almost for Iran already.
Feels much longer somehow, but I guess that's because it just failed so extremely quickly.
Yeah. So these are things we definitely need to stay on top of as far as just getting ideas out there. How do we solve these things? How do we stop these things from happening again and again? We all know the problems with, the powers that be misdirecting, or they get into what this one was, the Epstein files or something to some extent, trying to get misdirection. Maybe Trump or other people didn't want too much attention on the Epstein files. So let's start a war.
My favorite moment was when Melania Trump did the conference to say that she had nothing to do with Epstein after the war started, to distract from the Epstein files. So the joke is she brought up Epstein files to distract from the war that was supposed to distract from the Epstein files, to demonstrate the 5D chess that they're currently playing.
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating, let's say, to say the least. It's frustrating for anybody trying to make the world a better place, trying to do good in the world, and just trying to find solutions to some of these insane, chaotic problems that just seem so intractable. They seem so impossible to solve. How do you actually get humans to start working together and stop killing each other for no reason whatsoever, other than to just misdirect from their misdeeds or their negativity? So those are the things we need to focus on. If anybody has ideas, wants to come on and talk about it, these are the things we'd love to discuss and get into, and just get people thinking about some positive potential solutions. Again, that's one of the main purposes of our tool, is to just get people talking about these things more and thinking about solutions to these intractable problems a little bit more. If we just talk it through, eventually we will find paths forward. We will find ideas and just feel a little better knowing that there are people out there that want to make a difference and that want to end this craziness and this chaos and find a path forward for humanity that doesn't require constant war and constant suffering of unnecessary suffering, let's say.
Yeah, I would actually say that, like, if that we have sort of like a very clear mission now, I think this is it. Because if you look at media today, you either have like still some vestiges of like various kinds of propaganda that are just saying the obvious nonsense that nobody has been believing for like at least several months, if not a couple of years now, or you have like on the other side mostly reports of how everything's terrible, like that those people are bad and those things are bad, and like, ooh, nuclear apocalypse, like these kinds of things. And like sure, there's a role and a place and a function for like reporting what's bad so that people know that things are bad. Like, I guess, to learn from what to avoid, that kind of stuff. But then I think what's missing mostly is people trying to like acknowledge that, like, yeah, sure, various things are pretty bad, but focus on like not just like positive distractions of like look like a cute squirrel on like a water skis or whatever, but focusing on like, okay, so let's get all the like so-called adults in the room like together, even though they could be pretty young people, I imagine, at this point. If you think about who's actually more reasonable, probably on average, as a group. So anyway, so get like all these like reasonable people together who would like things to be better and try to collaborate on making them better, like figuring out practically like which tools can be created, which new systems can be created, which like if there is a crisis somewhere, like what is actually the best way of approaching it or dealing with it, so that there are actually measurably better outcomes. So I guess maybe we should also remind people or our new watchers that of the show that our basic like philosophy for this, we call it, or we didn't invent it, it's called Protopianism. So the idea is focusing on what is the next step on a path toward better, whatever it is. So if we can't solve some huge problem tomorrow, well, that's really not, that is what it is. But what we always can do is look like, okay, but what is a thing we can do that is objectively an improvement? And trying to figure out what that is and try to at least let people know that there is a constructive step that everybody can take. So that's, I guess, a lot of what we're going to be doing in the particularly upcoming episodes, because I guess we're going to go through the pillars to sort of like recap, remind people, but also to explain how much progress we've made in making specific solutions possible within those areas.
We probably should make a specific episode for each of the 7 pillars again, I guess, now that we've had years to kind of evolve the ideas. But going through them really quick, see if we can remember. So protecting peace is the first pillar. They're all P's. So protecting peace is definitely one of the most important. You can't have any other solutions unless you have peace in the world, because people are fighting and dying. Nothing nothing much else matters. Particularly, nuclear war and things like that, we have to avoid at all costs. So whatever we can do to bring the world together, give the UN more power to end these conflicts, maybe find some way to bring democratic voting back into, do you actually want this war? Let the American public vote on it. I mean, how many people want to go to war like this for whatever reason?
Well, they don't. I guess the issue is getting the fact that people don't want it to matter.
Yeah. So we have to bring the control back to the people and just try to stop these wars before they start. And then if they do start, find some kind of peaceful resolution sooner rather than later. I mean, there's no reason at all the Ukraine war should have gone on this long. It's absolutely insane to me that we haven't found some way to work it out with Russia or work it out with the powers that be, to just stop this. It's just so much waste, and so it's so useless and so sad for the progress of humanity. It's holding us back. We could be doing so much more. Our Star Trek-like utopia is just within reach if we can just, move beyond this. So that's number one, protecting peace. Second pillar, preventing poverty. So peace and poverty were the first two.
Or prosperity, if you want to flip it around as a positive.
Yeah, flip it around. Yeah, promoting prosperity or preventing poverty, whichever one you prefer. And then I think the third one was promoting purpose, finding purpose.
Finding purpose, yeah.
Creating purpose or fostering purpose. And this is really just about the world when AI is kind of doing all our jobs. We've got to find a purpose. We've got to find something, whether it's a podcast like this or just any kind of volunteer group, any kind of environmental or big brothers, big sisters, whatever you happen to like, even sports or games. I'm running a board game week now twice a year. That's been a lot of fun, and it's just a great place for 40 friends to get together and play board games for a week and then discuss the world problems and just feel better about life. So these are the kinds of things I highly recommend to anybody out there is find a purpose, whatever it might be, and find your happiness. So that's our other pillar, is giving purpose to people. And then the next one would be the AI pillar. Do you remember what we called it? Progress, yes. I think it was embracing progress in a way.
It's something, well, I guess the idea is like finding a way to do like a sustainable progress that, doesn't go completely off the rails, but while also actually progressing instead of stagnating.
Yeah. The key is just using AI in a way that is good for humanity. And, not being afraid of losing our jobs. I guess that's one of the biggest things is, you always go back to the Luddites. Progress happens. You can't stop it. You have to work with it. And you might as well, the sooner you can embrace it and find a way to move forward and not be so angry or upset about maybe losing a job, but just find a new job or find something else to do as a society, not as individuals. Obviously, individuals have a tough time doing that. But
you just need
as a society.
Yeah, we need a different economic paradigm because everybody keeps saying so what does come after capitalism? And everybody's ideas are just going back to something. So I think our most current way of calling it is generativism or generocracy as a regime. Basically, its idea is focused on generation, so generative capacity, as opposed to trying to having a bunch of stuff decided before what to build and which products to offer, focusing on basically, if not having a Star Trek replicator, understanding the economics of replicators, basically, and knowing how we can have abundance and don't have to do jobs, but also can just enjoy the abundance is sort of, I guess, one of the biggest issue going forward in all of political philosophy and governance. And that's something that we will definitely go into detail and have a bunch of ideas about. So what's another pillar?
So that's 4. Number 5, is this 5 the promoting, I think it's proof, right? Or there's proof is definitely one of them, sort of related particularly to the purpose one. But yeah, it's sort of, we can separate it into the TruthWorks initiative. Oh, we did miss one. Oh, we missed the pollution one.
I was waiting how long.
We got my card out. We missed the. We're one ahead of ourselves. That's why the numbers are messing up. Number 2 is controlling pollution. And that's about true cost accounting and having the true cost. Yeah, that one is kind of so obvious that it just slipped my mind. But yeah, so promoting peace, controlling pollution, preventing poverty, creating purpose was 4, and then 5 was embracing progress. And then 6, providing proof. That's the number 6. And that's really just about trying to find truth, actual truth, critical thinking, finding ways to get actual good knowledge and good ideas out there where it's not just, fake news, or it's not just being controlled by corporations wanting you to buy a certain thing or vote a certain way, right? It's really just about trying to prove that this war is, why are they going to war? Give us some proof. What is this war all about? And it's been very obvious to me that they have no proof whatsoever that any of these wars are for the good of humanity and have any purpose whatsoever other than just misdirecting the populace.
Yeah, I think the best way of commenting on it is calling their quote unquote operation. They even did do it's not a war, it's an operation thing that put in a couple of years ago. So they did that, and so they call it Epic Fury because I guess a 16-year-old is naming the operations now, and so everybody now calling it Epstein Fury. Is the sort of better, more truthful reflection of like what's probably going on with that war.
Yeah, we definitely need a culture of evidence, science, and debate to be kind of bring that back to the forefront of all of our discussions and providing proof wherever we can. So that's the sixth pillar. And then the last one is bringing it all together again, back to protecting prosperity. This is similar to the preventing poverty, but it's all six of them kind of combined.
Two sides of the one coin. It's like you have like sort of the preventing the negative thing, but also fostering the positive thing.
Yeah, and this last one really is about bringing all the six previous ones together in a way that preventing like chaos and disasters of potentially AI takeover, maybe even alien threats someday, asteroid threats, nuclear threats, all these threats. Once we have everything else kind of organized, we're still going to have existential threats like the dinosaurs had. We're still going to have ways that we need to work together.
Like they have all the time on Star Trek shows. So that's not really, it's going to be like nothing eventful happening, I guess.
Yeah, we're never going to be cloud in the sky perfect. We're never going to be in this heaven-like place where there's nothing that can go wrong. There's always going to be challenges, and that's good because it's interesting, and we're going to have, we're going to have things that need to be solved. And anyone that wants to be a part of those solutions and part of solving things, that's good. Gives us something to do, right? And gives us a purpose. So the protecting prosperity is the thing that brings it all together in a way that ensures democracy, freedom, and safety for everyone for the foreseeable long-term future, preventing all these AI takeover disasters that have been on the internet a lot lately. So those are the seven pillars. 7 pillars of Protopia, they're called. So check them out on the website. We have pages and pages kind of dedicated to all of them, and we keep adding to them all the time. All of our discussions, all of our podcasts are really focused on one pillar or another, if not all of them in some way. And we keep on referring back to them a lot. So definitely let us know what you think. Let us know if there's anything that you want to add to any of the pillars, or if you think we're missing a pillar entirely. We started with 4 back 5 years ago, and then we kind of expanded to 7, I think 3 years ago now. So it's always evolving. We're there might be something. I think we kind of have at least a way to slot things into one of those 7 somewhere anyway. It kind of is a little bit all encompassing with the wide variety of how it works, but it's not. It's definitely not impossible that we create an 8th or 9th or 10th pillar someday. So it's fun, but it holds up our society, holds up our Protopian vision of what we would like the world to look like, and having these 7 things to focus on gives us a good point to argue and a good point to debate what's important to society.
But I think since the developments that we've worked on for the last couple of months, I would say that more so than we believed it even before now. If you take all of these pillars, I think there's a lot of interconnectedness between them through solutions that, for example, would be like if you solve the aligned AI, that's like something that basically affects every single one of them and solves almost completely several of them. Because that's just the sort of civilizational technology that we now actually have, reiterate, we have pretty concrete ideas that just we don't want to necessarily publicly entirely explain before we've launched some sort of app or technology. But really, if you're interested in these kinds of things and you would like to have a much more in-depth, specific discussions about particularly how to make AI more aligned and what kinds of tools to create with AI to start really solving some of these problems, then definitely we would be glad to talk to you about that either on the show or privately in a more of a stealth mode. But there's really a lot to talk about at this point.
There's so much, and I mean some of the basic solutions we've kind of come up with, and that I've really enjoyed is obviously some kind of UBI, universal basic income, or universal basic services of some kind to prevent poverty, and protect prosperity as AI takes over. That's definitely one of the core pillars or the core solutions to a lot of the pillars. I think, along the same lines of the pollution one, where you need some kind of global controls or global taxes on certain kinds of pollution, maybe, and use that money to fund some kind of global UBI. So they work together. And so those are some of the core solutions that we'd like to find a way to at least move towards, where that might be possible for the world to kind of negotiate on something like this. The more it gets out there, the more people think about the ups and downs. There's definitely been a lot of talk in politics and political circles about trying something like this on a national stage. So we're making progress. There is very solid progress on a lot of these things going forward. Yeah, and it's family, connections, friends. All these things are good solutions to some of these finding purpose type problems, of finding ways to work together, finding ways to think about these solutions, and how do we enact them on a local level and then a wider levels.
I guess I would add to your list. I would add, like, one of the other big ideas that we've already had a while back was related to the prosperity with some new form of currency, where I guess the main idea would be, and it's kind of simple, is like really make a system in which the externalities are not externalized, meaning a true accounting for actual objective costs that include environmental damage or some sort of like social damage that you try to ignore or push on somebody else. So that's one of the other like bigger ideas that we now even more concretely would be able to explain, like how to actually go about it, and we probably will try to do that in the future. But also, since our work, extended work on particularly Cogensy and these other projects, I would add the general ideas of, first of all, with the help of AI, even basic AI, I think we can build something like the human superintelligence. It's not even really that much of a joke. It's like basically the ability to pool human intelligence together using platforms that can do massively scaled up, constructive, like algorithmically constructive conversations about our problem solving programs. So that's one thing that's very specific now that we actually will probably even like implement in a pretty near future in some fashion. So that's one thing. And another thing is, if we help actually make AI aligned, then aligned AI that actually is essentially working somewhere near or on the level of Asimovian robotics would be a great way of actually making a bunch of those preventing poverty, protecting prosperity. Essentially, that's a big part of how you get closer to something like Star Trek replicators in terms of having generated abundance. Because there's actually, in the title basically of the AI tools, is like it's called generative AI. And so the idea that like, you have a system that generates a whole bunch of value, that's one of the like very specific ways how you get much closer to abundant economies, at least in certain areas. So I think those are like the main two like new specific big ideas since we've took the pause.
Yeah, we're definitely making great progress with all the technology of food production and energy production. The electric cars are still taking off. Obviously, the automated robotics is definitely making a lot of progress. I can't wait to get my self-driving car someday. Like I've been excited about that for years, but it's still slow going. But hopefully this 2026 will be the big year where it starts to really go mainstream.
It's sort of interesting though that like in the West, in the United States, it's sort of like stalled and failed to improve much further. But fortunately, I guess, for planetary civilization, in China, they did keep making significant advancements in this area. Yeah. So thanks particularly to their, I guess, I would say more rational and focused development on some of these foundational technologies in terms of like physical applications of AI. For example, one of the other ways I've heard they're using is like you can use very like sort of simple AIs to like make very efficient agriculture, because like you're basically using sort of machine learning algorithms to, for example, manage how much water you use for the crops and stuff like that. So that's actually not a lot of focus in the West, unfortunately, but like there are very serious pathways of using artificial intelligence that may be even very different from even the generative AI that are already being developed to make significant advancements.
Yeah, so lots of hopeful solutions. Even fusion's made a lot of progress lately too. If you follow the news on that, you never know when that we might finally crack that 30-year egg of always being 30 years away from fusion.
Yeah, but it's also there are increasing what would be the best like the word on the street. I think there's even more sort of louder and louder notions that people keep throwing around that there actually is some sort of abundant energy solution that somebody is just keeping it under some patent or something. That actually is like not only close, but like that's more of an issue of something breaking in the systems of control that are currently breaking. So I even would wager some money that I don't have much of, but I would wager something even on like the wild card of like maybe just somebody leaks it in relatively near future.
We'll definitely do our best to cover all of that stuff as we move forward. Our next interview is going to be with We Planet. Actually, we've mentioned. I think we've had mentioned them podcast briefly about them in the past. They're really just about trying to focus on, I think, bringing back nuclear in different ways, safe nuclear, as well as focusing on precision fermentation agriculture. Solar Foods is one of my favorite in Finland. They've been making amazing progress. I think they just got a patent for the United States last week, so they're continuing to progress, and they could theoretically meet a very solid percentage of all the world's protein needs with just hydrogen and carbon dioxide, basically. And they produce the hydrogen with renewable energy, essentially.
So that's just another like food replicator prototype.
Essentially, yeah. And they're just growing food in a vat that's very healthy, very well-controlled nanoproteins that are just really, really good. They'll make shakes. They can make ice cream. They can make pastas out of it. Just about anything. So it's just the beginning. There's so many different good food technologies that are changing the way that we produce food in a way that there shouldn't be any shortages going forward. We can do it. We can do it in skyscrapers. We can do it underground. We just have to do it again mindfully and sustainably in a way that we can share it with everybody in the world, so we all have enough.
I guess in that area, the AI is very promising, particularly because the biggest sort of problem in agriculture today is just efficiency. There's like, if we just applied more efficiently what we already know, you can increase significantly like what you could produce.
Yeah. And the interesting thing there is they've actually recently started a podcast, I think about a year ago now, Saving the World from Bad Ideas, which is, again, it's actually a very similar name to ours. It's the Saving the World podcast, but Saving the World from Bad Ideas is their podcast. So it's going to be an interesting merger. They're definitely a little bit bigger than us, obviously, but you never know, we might get there. But it'll be really fun to have one of their leaders on with us next week, and we'll jump in together to see where we can find some synergies and some ideas that we can work together on.
Well, I think I would just like comment on that a little bit. I think like what we're like trying to do, if somebody looks at our channel and like sees that like we're not really super stressed about maximizing the numbers, I think you should think of us as a think tank. I think that's like more what we're doing is something like more of like I call it lightning rod strategy, meaning like we really try to produce just the highest quality of conversation that we can, and we do try to attract just highest quality people to talk to. And if the audience is relatively small but it's high quality, then I think we're really achieving something that we want to achieve in that. If you want to talk to us, we really are very close to being able to, or are already working on very specific projects. So if you're somebody who is highly motivated and very interested in these kinds of things, if you wouldn't necessarily want to work with us directly on our projects, we can definitely connect you with somebody else doing some other very specific project in a very related. Like, how many people did we interview from how many organizations over the years?
Well over 50 by now, and then every one of them's doing different things that are, again, helping to save the world in their own way. And I love that. We're doing this for us more than anybody else. It helps us to connect to people. It helps us to have purpose. So thank you to all of our viewers that are part of this journey with us. Thank you for encouraging us and keeping us going. Even if our numbers are small, it is very satisfying to have any kind of influence whatsoever on the world, to make it a little bit better each day. It gives me something it gets me going, it gets me up in the morning, and it gets me excited to just be a part of this world. It's hopeful. So thank you very much to all our viewers. I think we'll wrap it up there for today. We just wanted to give you a quick update on what we were doing. Thank you so much, and we'll try to do our best to do a weekly or bi-weekly going forward for the next foreseeable future. And again, leave us a like, leave us a comment, let us know if you see this, and we'll do our very best to save the world together. Thanks so much, everybody. See you soon.